I am at Danny Mayfield Park in a town called Mechanicsville. If there ever was a neighborhood perhaps best representative of Knoxville and the scruffy city moniker, it is this town of Mechanicsville. I don't think I need to tell you where Mechanicsville got its name from. This was once a very middle class, hard working class community. Back in the day, as we boomers like to say. And like a working class neighborhood, Mechanicsville, you can see a lot of community and civic pride around the neighborhood. Like street names. Frida, I hope I got that right, Delaney. Alfreda was once a public school teacher in Knoxville. She was a community leader in Mechanicsville here. Much like Danny Mayfield, the local city councilor representative for Mechanicsville, who the park is named after here in this community. Other inspirations tend to go back a ways. And that is one of the reasons that I am here in Mechanicsville, to discover this neighborhood that I always seem to walk through on my way up the hill here. To the historic Black College, Knoxville College. I love this. Walking up here to the park. This is throughout the neighborhood here. Beautifully restored homes. And they have mailboxes. Not so much on the street here, but in the alleyways of many of the streets here, which I thought was really cool and very indicative of Mechanicsville today. Look at the homes here. I am in Mechanicsville today not for Knoxville College, Knoxville College has become a trigger for this Knoxville neighbor. The city has for years tried to get whoever owns this property to sell it or redevelop it. It has been vandalized, and it's been abandoned for a good part of, well, almost 50 years. And it is beautiful land and a lot of acres around here, adjacent to a beautiful family community. But for some reason, Knoxville College refuses to give up the ghost. And it angers me. Even the First Presbyterian Church here the church that founded Knoxville College, even they have got up and moved from this site. Embarrassed at what this, vacant property that is constantly vandalized and abused and set on fire, and they don't care to be part of the blight in Mechanicsville. The neighbors here have restored this very old neighborhood into a beautiful, beautiful community. And even the First Presbyterian Church that founded the historic Black College itself does not want to be part of being looked at and pointed at as the reason for the blight in this neighborhood. All right. Sermon over. I am on my way. There's another reason I came here to Mechanicsville. And I might add here, Mechanicsville is on the other side of the University of Tennessee campus. All right, so on one side of downtown, well, they're both on the same side, but at one time, you had the White College, University of Tennessee, on one side of the city, and then you had Knoxville College, the Black College, on the other side of Knoxville metropolitan area. You had the University of Tennessee in what they call the Fort Sanders neighborhood, where James Agee lived. The writer and critic. Where the Cormac McCarthy family, I heard, at one time lived. All over by the University of Tennessee. So it was a pretty nice, middle-class, upscale neighborhood. Especially in contrast to the more working class. And the more upwardly mobile, shall we say, families that lived in Mechanicsville during the day. Having come from parents that worked in the steel mills of Pittsburgh, I understand working class. And one way of rising above one's born station in life was through education. So blacks, Irish, and the lower class of Knoxville, Italians, Germans, the immigrants that came after the Civil War, Knoxville College was a way of escaping a preordained sort of life in the day. All right. See, that's the paradox here in Mechanicsville. You have these beautifully restored and cared for homes juxtaposed to this piece of trash that runs and sprawls for acres and acres and acres here in Mechanicsville. I'm here today to pay tribute and to commemorate Emancipation Day in Knoxville. Something being said there. When I first came to Knoxville, I visited the Beck Cultural Center. It is Knoxville's museum for Black history and Black culture. in the Knoxville area. And all I kept seeing, as I went through, ironically, which was once an old home that was bought by the Beck Cultural Center, restored and made into a museum. All I kept seeing as I walked through this museum, this home, former home of a black doctor, I believe it was Emancipation Day. Emancipation Day. Don't forget Emancipation Day. It's August 8th is Emancipation Day. We are celebrating Emancipation Day on this date. I'm sorry. I come from the country. So, I walked up to the woman at the center. I said, Emancipation Day, Juneteenth, you mean, right? Juneteenth? She said, oh, no. She said, August 8th. It's Emancipation Day. I'm there, well, all right, so what, you don't celebrate Juneteenth? She said, no, you don't understand. Juneteenth is all right, let's say Emancipation Day for the country. It's not our Emancipation Day. And I thought that was so cool. I thought that was so cool. You can write it into law all you want. Juneteenth, the holiday, And it's now is a law, isn't it? But August 8th, Emancipation Day in Knoxville. It is a big deal here in Knoxville. And it's been going on, it's been celebrated for years here in this Tennessee town. One of the celebrations this past August 3rd, what an odd date to celebrate August 8th. Emancipation Day. One of the celebrations this past weekend was held here at the Freedmen's Mission Historic Cemetery. Right in a nice little cove beneath Knoxville College, or its remains. All right. Nestled among the remains here of Freedmen's Cemetery in Knoxville. Freedmen's was a franchise cemetery of sorts in the day. I'm sorry, I'll quit saying that, but much like Oddfellow Cemetery which is just like it is in Knoxville, downtown Knoxville. Freedmen Cemetery was created after the Civil War because, where are you going to put the freedmen now, who are and women, who are no longer slaves when they die? They're going to live, and then where are you going to bury them when they die? They're not going in my grave. So I'm sorry. My church don't take that. Or my cemetery will not accept them. So Freedmen Cemetery was created as a franchise. There are a number, Dallas, I think, I saw, there's a franchise there, Freedmen Cemetery there. They're all now historic cemetery. And their purpose, their mission was to have a place for freed men to be buried after they live their lives, after being emancipated by the Civil War. Now, so this is really a cemetery of, well, we'll get to that. The ceremony that was held here at Freedmen this past weekend was a libation ceremony. And it was the 11th Emancipation Day ceremony here in Knoxville to honor and commemorate Emancipation Day. Now, I don't know what your definition of libation ceremony is. To this drunkard, to this former Irishman, to this former homeless man, usually when I had a libation ceremony somewhere in the hills across America, it usually meant, smashing bottles on headstones. Although today, many women and children, I guess, mark their territory in other ways, or kind of bridge the past to the present as libation ceremonies. That is their purpose, to bridge the past ancestors to the present. And it's usually done by pouring water. Or if you're homeless, you pour booze. Or if you got a dog, you pour, right. But, yeah. So that's the purpose of a libation ceremony. Sort of a ceremonial and symbolic link between the past and the present. And I get it, that bridge, being the Irishman I was raised as in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I know all about drink, turning water into wine. and being one with the gods. Well, this whole libation idea, or as the Catholics knew it as, transubstantiation, goes back years. Emancipation Day in Knoxville was begun by Sam Johnson. When, as a slave to Andrew Johnson, soon to become president, freed his slaves. When Andrew Johnson freed his slaves on August 8th, 1863, Sam Johnson decided to celebrate the anniversary of that date. And from what I know, it began in Greenville, Tennessee, and has been in Knoxville, celebrated in Knoxville for at least 100 years. In fact, Andrew Johnson, the president, was said to have attended one of these Emancipation Days in Tennessee. Louis Armstrong came into town and played at the segregated Chillowy Park outside Knoxville, the fairground today, in 1931, I believe, for the reason of helping Knoxvillians celebrate Emancipation Day. Sam Johnson is not buried in this Freedmen's cemetery, but his nieces and nephew, I think there's 2 nieces and a nephew who are buried here. And it is their gravesite where Knoxvillians celebrate and Emancipation Day. And it is here for the last 11 years where one of the ceremonies, to honor that day, the libation ceremony, has been held here at the grave of, and I'm assuming this is, well, let's see what. Flowers are fresh. No, they're not plastic. We would have said in Pittsburgh, in the day. There we go. Our mother, Elizabeth Johnson, also a former slave, by the way. She too was a slave, born into slavery. The dates are obscure. Died October 18, 1903, or I'm sorry, 1903. Time has worn the stone. Okay. And notice her stone. Is that cool? Is that cool? All right, class. Where's that stone from? It's the modern woodman. It's a modern woodman stone. From Modern Woodman Insurance, a predominantly male organization and society around the turn of the 20th century. But as I've shown, women too have taken advantage of the premium that insurance company gave them, or offered to their members.